AITA for taking my daughter out to eat? So I 39M have a 16F daughter from a previous marriage. For context, I met my now wife 37 when my daughter was 10, and she had a son 7M when we met. Our relationship was great, and our connection was really present throughout our relationship. 5 months into our relationship, I introduced her to my ex 35F and my daughter. My ex and wife were cordial, and my daughter warmed up to her quickly. From what I know, they had a good relationship. My daughter grew up sort of a picky eater. For example, she won't eat things like oatmeal, tomatoes, garlic, mushrooms, barbecue, anything salty or sour, etc. She loves spicy food, sweets, and all that. And you could not trick her into eating anything she didn't like. When she was 13, I put 1 garlic clove in the melted butter I was using to make her grilled cheese. It cow, but she could taste it, and I knew for a fact the taste wasn't that strong. Her taste senses amazed me. Oh, she ignored me for a whole week and didn't eat anything I cooked for her. I never tried anything like that again. I work a 5 to 9 shift, but yesterday I got off around 9 because my group and I wanted to hurry and finish our part of a work project we had. When I got home, my wife had already prepared dinner and left my plate in the oven. I heated my food and stood at the island and chatted with my wife, who was with our son in the living room. As I was eating, I realized that my wife had cooked garlic stir-fried rice, barbecue chicken, and a vegetable salad consisting of corn, tomatoes, mushrooms, and spinach. I stopped chatting with my wife and just observed my plate for a good 5 minutes. My wife asked what was wrong and if I disliked the food. Finally, after an eternity, I asked what my daughter had eaten because everything she cooked were all foods my daughter disliked. She was quiet for a few moments before finally saying that my daughter had not eaten since lunch. Needless to say, I was upset. I asked her why she didn't switch up the meal to accommodate my daughter's palate. She got really defensive and started saying my daughter was being dramatic and it was just food so she could still eat if she was hungry. We argued and I reminded her that it wasn't that simple for a picky eater like my daughter. After a while of going back and forth, I decided to end the conversation by ignoring my wife. I felt that my daughter's wishes were disregarded. I took my daughter out to eat. I also brought her some sweets and we bonded and talked a lot. I discovered my wife has been purposely cooking food my daughter doesn't like. My daughter has never been one to complain, so she has been using money from her paycheck and she wasn't going to eat this particular night because she had no intention of pulling money out of her account savings. We got home around midnight and my wife was upset that I took my daughter out instead of convincing her to eat her cooking. Me and my wife are going to have a long chat when I'm off work. Update AITA for taking my daughter out to eat. I got home about an hour ago and was reading the comments for about 15 minutes. I'll be answering questions at the end of this post. The talk with my wife went okay-ish. I asked her what was going on. My wife was hesitant as she didn't want to have this talk at all. But finally she said she hates cooking for my daughter. She said that it was too much to go out of her way to constantly go out of her way to accommodate her and how annoying it was to always make sure the food is cooked to a certain texture and seasoned to my daughter's liking. She then revealed that she stopped cooking food the way my daughter liked because our son didn't like it. She then proceeded to say that my daughter just needs to grow as it was only food and wouldn't kill her and how her being picky was just draining. I asked why she didn't have a sit down with our kids to make some sort of compromise and she said her son's needs came before my daughter's. She also revealed that she had straight up stopped buying more than half of my daughter's personalized grocery list because it was a waste of money and that our son what snacks that he wanted. I was dumbfounded and asked her if she was just going to let my daughter go hungry, to which she responded by saying all she has to do is eat the food she cooked. I asked her what was draining about putting 1 or 2 pieces of plain chicken aside. She said that I wouldn't get it because I didn't cook for my daughter like she did. Which was true as I'm at work from 5 to 9 and I only cook dinner on weekends, holidays and holiday breaks. She apologized to me but suggested that I should convince my daughter to eat the food she doesn't like because it would make everyone's life easier. I then asked her if she would think the same thing if it was our son and she didn't respond, which was answer enough. I don't know what to do now. If she's willing to let my daughter go hungry, how else would she be willing to neglect my daughter? What should I do now? Second update AITA for taking my daughter out to eat. I'm gonna clarify some things and answer the most asked questions. 1. Do I intend to stay with my wife? No, I've already decided on divorce. 2. Why do I refer to my wife's son as our son and my daughter as my daughter? My daughter doesn't call my wife mom, she calls her by her name, which makes sense since her mom is still very involved in her life. Naturally, I'd refer to my daughter as my daughter. As for my ex's son, I've known him since he was 7, and he didn't have any father figure in his life. He calls me dad and I treat like my own. I thought it would be easier to understand throughout the story. 3. Why won't my daughter just cook her own food? Well, if y'all read the story thoroughly, y'all would see where I said that my wife admitted to not buying most of my daughter's grocery list. This, of course, limits the food my daughter can cook and eat herself. She believes that it's a waste of money and should be used on snacks, her son prefers, and extra food. For how bad is my daughter's relationship with her bio mom? My daughter and her bio mom relationship is very good. She's never been neglectful towards her from what I know of. She lived with her bio mom from ages 12 to 15. I think she's keen on staying with me to try a different arrangement and get a break from her bio mom, as I know she can be a little crazy. And I mean that in a good way. 5. Why doesn't my daughter eat the food my wife makes instead of throwing a fit? It's not as simple as just eating the food. She gets physically ill. Seriously, we try every now and then to expand her palate, no luck, she literally will gag and vomit the food. 6. Am I going to let her pay for her own groceries? Absolutely not. Children shouldn't have to worry about making sure they can eat no matter what age they are. That's the parent job. 7. How is my wife only going grocery shopping for a while month? On the first of every month, my wife goes grocery shopping with our budget being 1K 1.5K. 8. My work schedule, 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. Off on weekends and holidays. 9. Why am I letting my daughter leave instead of my wife? My daughter has a choice to stay with me or her mother. She's choosing to stay with me. My wife will be the one leaving once the divorce is finalized. 10. Have I told my wife or the kids that I've decided on divorce? No, not tonight. I will be having a sit-down with both my kids separately and one with everyone together. I do teach my daughter how to manage her money. My daughter is a junior, so she is usually busy with a lot. She also plays soccer, volleyball, and is on the student council at her school. She shouldn't have to worry about having a meal to eat when she gets home. I'm not saying that she is too young to go grocery shopping herself. But you get the point. My daughter isn't upset with my wife. She sympathizes with her because she knows it is difficult to accommodate someone with her taste palette and is still insisting that I give my wife another chance. This is heartbreaking because my wife openly admitted to putting her own son needs before my daughter's. Which I'm not mad at. Protect yours, right? But still, I don't play favorites with her son and my daughter, and if our roles were reversed, I'd bend over backward to accommodate him. People are also confused about how I didn't notice before. My wife always told me that she made a separate meal for my daughter, which I believed. I mean, I had no reason not to. My daughter is a huge people pleaser, so of course she didn't say anything, probably because she was scared to drive a bridge between me and my wife. For the narrow-minded people saying that my daughter is being dramatic, think of it as you being forced to eat something you are extremely allergic to. You wouldn't want to, and you shouldn't be forced to. People are saying that my wife's neglect towards our daughter is far more serious, so I'm going to put my daughter in therapy because I know she won't just come out and say what other issues her and my wife have been having. My daughter isn't literally going hungry, she has a job. Still, she shouldn't be spending money on takeout every night. Me not forcing me to eat for she can't keep down isn't me spoiling her, and for the people saying she should just suck it up, I need to seek help. I feel extremely guilty as a parent for not seeing my daughter being neglected sooner, and I hope my relationship with her can be fixed. I'm also going to look into all the conditions y'all are saying my daughter might have. Feel free to ask anything in the comments if you're still confused. Last update: AITA for taking my daughter out to eat. Sorry it took so long to get back to everyone. I've been reading all the comments for a while now, and I just want to say thank you for all the support. First, I want to address the comments saying that I'm divorcing my wife because of a dietary issue that needs to wake up. The issue runs far deeper. My wife purposely neglected to buy my daughter's grocery list after insisting, every time, to do the grocery and food organizing on her own. She purposely neglected my daughter and disrespected her. There is literally no telling what else she is willing to do to my daughter. Therefore, I no longer trust her. I'm honestly disappointed in my wife. Just to clarify, my daughter isn't spoiled. She works for half of the things she owns. She pays for her own school books and her own phone bills, her choice. She also is a straight A and B student. She literally is one of the biggest people pleaser you will probably ever meet. She is also a very calm, natured person and doesn't hash out her problems by fighting and yelling. She's very mature. As stated in my second update, I had a talk with my son, my daughter, and my wife. I talked with my daughter first and told her I was divorcing my wife. She was shocked and kept persisting that I gave her another chance and that she isn't in any way upset. I told her that I understand, but I was upset for, and I assured her that this wasn't her fault and that I just wanted the best for her. She got very defensive and said, "You need to be worried about your own happiness. I'm leaving for the military or college in a few years and you're going to be an old man with no one there for you." I laughed and said that I could be 130 and still make the best out of being alone. After that we laughed, we cried, she apologized, and we comforted each other. Next, it was time to talk to my son. He looked so taken aback, then started full-on crying. I comforted him, telling him that it wasn't his fault and continuously apologizing to him. After he calmed down, I explained the entire situation to him. He looked embarrassed and tired, and he started apologizing for his mother's actions. After a while, he cleared his throat and said, "So does this mean you won't be my dad anymore?" I was heartbroken by that sentence and started shedding a few tears. I told him that he would always be a son and that I would still financially support him even if he cut contact with me. He cried and assured me that he wanted me as a dad and expressed that he knew that his mother wouldn't let me see him. I assured him and comforted him. About 2 hours later, it was finally time to break the news to my wife. I had both kids present, and most of you all suggested getting evidence, so my phone was in my pocket so I could record the entire conversation. I started the conversation off by asking what she had against my daughter. She was dead silent before I finally spoke again, saying, "I'm divorcing you, so you should start looking for a lawyer." I asked her to explain why she was neglecting and disrespecting my child. At this point, she was crying but not making any sound. My daughter spoke up and suggested we have this conversation later. I argued against the idea with my daughter until my wife spoke up and said she did it because my daughter is the spitting image of her mother. My ex, obviously me and my kids and I were confused. What does her looking like her mom had to do with anything? I asked her to explain further, and she started crying. I could barely understand, but apparently I was cheating on her wife, my ex. Not true. She said I would flirt with her on the phone while laying right next to her. Also not true. Who in their right mind would even do such a thing? She said that the relationship I have with my ex isn't normal. I'll explain our relationship thoroughly in the comments. And no, I do not in any way condone cheating and I haven't cheated on my wife once. After saying that our relationship was normal, she started full berating my ex. Now, like I said before, my daughter is a naturally laid-back and calm person, but she does not condone any type of disrespect towards her mother. She left my wife a verbal assault so foul Mike Tyson wouldn't recover from it before stomping off to her room. If you're wondering if I stepped in, the answer is no. I'm not sorry either. I won't repeat what she said here because I don't want anybody attacking my daughter. The conversation basically ended there. I went upstairs to calm down my daughter, and my son stayed downstairs to console his mother. I'll be taking my wife to court for visitation rights with my son.